Today on the Morning Edition, thousands of demonstrators gathered across the country, and that includes Alaska, to protest Trump's new administration policies. We have a roundup.
Iron Dog racers arrive in Kotzebue, nearing the halfway mark of their grueling 2,500-mile snow machine journey. Plus, a shakeup for another iconic Alaskan race. The Iditarod's restart won't be in Willow this year. We'll tell you what's forcing a new launch point.
And later, a beachfront takeover. Elephant seals move on in, claiming the shoreline for birthing season. Why these massive marine mammals are thriving like never before as the Morning Edition continues. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. They just live their best
hanging
life.
out, just chilling on the beach, I tell you.
I'd love to be chilling on the beach
right
about
now.
now.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's already feeling like spring.
Feels
so
kind of like winter's like, it was a good run.
And it's been a dry winter in terms of snowfall.
Yeah.
We have seen some liquid precip, but if you remember back in January, we had that flood warning. That liquid precip, none of that was able to permeate the soil due to our frozen ground. So that all ran off into our local waterways. So for the most part, it has been a dry winter across South Central, even parts of Southeast, where we're seeing a lack of some of that snowfall. 29 degrees currently in Anchorage. Winds remaining on the Commerce side, and we are going to continue to see these overnight lows staying fairly warm across South Central, with the exception of parts of the Glen Highway as you head east of Chickaloon and then out towards the Copper River Basin. This is where we're still holding on to some of those cooler conditions, but the region as a whole is sitting on the warmer side, and you can already see 40 degrees out towards Cordova. Widespread rain out towards Prince William Sound, and of course some coastal activity across southern parts of the Kenai. What we are going to be watching this week is how much or if any of this moisture can spread in over the mountains from the Chugach Range out towards the Kenai Mountains. If that occurs, we'll see some light activity. If not, we'll just continue to hold on to these mostly cloudy to overcast skies. At times, we could see some peaks of sunshine this week, but largely expecting this week to stay fairly cloudy across South Central. Just within the last hour, we picked up just over about 0.05 of an inch of rain out towards Portage, approaching 0.4 of an inch since midnight. And you can see western Prince William Sound. This is where we're seeing most of the rainfall, while inland locations, we've just been on the dry and cloudy side, and that will likely stay with us through today. But as we welcome in our Wednesday and Thursday, notice how we could see the potential for some of this moisture spreading northward over the mountaintops. That could bring us some light rain accumulation. No snow in the forecast, which is actually a snow drought, and this is likely going to be the least snowiest season that we've seen across South Central. I'll have more on that in that 7-day forecast coming up.
We begin with a major test of President Donald Trump's foreign policy strength as White House officials are meeting with Russia, seeking an end to the war in Ukraine, and that's without Ukraine.
Here at home, nationwide protests are ramping up, with more federal workers' cuts raising safety concerns. Alice Barr has what's new this morning.
High-level talks to end Russia's war on Ukraine beginning this morning in Saudi Arabia, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other Trump foreign policy advisors sitting down with their Russian counterparts. For now, Ukraine is not at the table for negotiations that could trade away Russian-seized Ukrainian territory. Ukraine's president has told NBC News his country will not accept a deal it's not part of.
We have to be there, otherwise it's not acceptable.
President Trump says Ukraine will be included in negotiations. An administration envoy is expected in the country this week.
Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey!
Here at home, a President's Day of protest across the country over federal worker job cuts through Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. The latest layoffs include close to 300 FAA employees, just as real-world incidents are raising alarm. The Transportation Secretary says no air traffic controllers or critical safety staff were let go. Those who were cut say remaining workers are stretched thin.
Their workload has drastically increased.
And NBC News confirmed the top Social Security Administration official resigned after refusing to give DOJ teams access to sensitive information. After similar concerns were raised at the IRS, the White House insisted DOJ would not go through the records of regular Americans.
What we're talking about is at the programmatic level, being able to analyze and assess for signs and symptoms of fraud.
Despite protests, the Trump team pressing ahead. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And new details this morning, NBC is reporting the Trump administration is preparing to fire hundreds of high-level employees at Homeland Security. Sources say these are not just cost-cutting moves. They're aimed at people not on board with the administration's goals. And on social media this morning, the White House is confirming another major shakeup. Over the weekend, Michelle King, the acting commissioner of the Social Security Administration, stepped down. There had been clashes with members of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. The newly formed organization sought access to sensitive personal data about millions of Americans held by the agency. The data includes information about income, addresses, retirement benefits, and often medical records for any American with a Social Security number. King had been with the agency for more than 30 years.
Protesting Trump administration policies, there were also defiant voices across Alaska. Hundreds joined those nationwide President's Day protests, and that included more than 100 outside the Capitol building in Juneau. In Anchorage, it was outside City Hall in downtown and also along the New Seward Highway. Outside Fairbanks City Hall, viewers also sent us pictures of a group walking through Seward. These rallies, part of the 50-51 movement, a coordinated effort across all 50 states challenging executive orders, federal layoffs, and Elon Musk's growing influence in government.
It's like we're all on the same team here. Let's try to work together to find positive solutions. Let's not vilify people and try to treat them like they're the enemy.
I am here to protest the changes for DEI because DEI impacts every member of my family, including people who are not people of color or anything. They're veterans.
We are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly.
Last week, Musk defended the cuts as a necessary response to what the administration calls decades of excessive spending. Despite repeated questions, the governor's office remains silent on how these cuts will affect Alaska's federal workforce. Alaska Congressman Nick Begich, a member of the Congressional DOGE caucus, did address the issue.
The only way to get that under control is to trim government back to a rational size and reduce some of the spending. And that is what is happening. I will tell you, I am part of the DOGE caucus. This caucus is bipartisan. There are a number of Democrats that are a part of this caucus, too. They want to see waste, fraud, and abuse eliminated from the federal government as well.
We're protesting the current Republican administration, who we believe is taking away our freedoms and our democracy.
Rights of people around us, and we need to be involved. People need to stand up for this.
You can find more on these protests, including parts of legislative speeches from Juneau, on our website.
Some Alaskans on SNAP are finding out too late that once their funds are stolen, they're gone for good. That's even after a federal memo last year told states to make those notifications.
I'm stuck basically between a rock and a hard place. I can't afford to go to the store and buy groceries.
After federal reimbursements ended in December, the state stopped replacing lost benefits and shifted focus to prevention. For people like Joyce Hott, who lost $400 overnight, that message only came when she called for help.
They connected me with another person who did not give me their name, would not give me their name, and just basically said those few words. As of the 20th of December, we are no longer refunding or reimbursing food stamps that are lost or stolen.
Without federal funding, continuing to replace those stolen benefits would require the state to divert our limited resources from other essential public assistance programs. And so sort of really putting our efforts to focus on prevention is really where we're at.
The public assistance director says she'll follow up with staff to find out why some were not notified despite a federal memo. She urges SNAP recipients to protect their benefits by calling the number on the back of their card. Find more advice and the federal memo on our website and mobile app.
But with less than 2 weeks until the Iditarod, the race is making a major adjustment due to conditions that are no surprise this winter. Organizers announced the start will move from Anchorage to Fairbanks. Justin Matson spoke with officials about the decision and what it means for mushers.
The countdown to the start of the Iditarod hasn't changed, but the starting line has, to Fairbanks.
It was a tough call for sure.
The decision is a reversal of what race organizers said on January 31st, after trailbreakers looked at the trail over President's Day weekend and found conditions to be dangerous.
This year, we ran into a situation much like 1986, where there was nothing but tussocks and dirt that full way to, we'll say, from Roan all the way to Salmon River, which is 18 miles or so out of Nikolai.
The problem is this section from Roan to Nikolai was unpassable.
The new route released on Monday goes as follows. Teams will start in Fairbanks, go through Manly, and up into Ruby along the Yukon River before rejoining the traditional Iditarod route and finishing in Nome.
The route's slightly different this time. We added a little loop, kind of going downriver, then upriver.
Organizers know that this is a change that came late, but ultimately feel that the safety of the racers and their teams comes first.
I think everybody has the welfare of these dogs and teams at heart here.
The ceremonial start to the Iditarod will still happen at 10 o'clock a.m. Saturday, March 1st in downtown Anchorage, while teams will restart the race and embark on their trek Monday, March 3rd at 11. Justin Matson, Alaska's news source.
Still ahead, the Iditarod isn't the only race that's dealing with the weather as the Iron Dog pushes forward and the first teams have made it to Nome.
But the trail has been brutal. Racers share their experiences, their challenges, and what lies ahead for Class Plus.
The probe into what went wrong after yet another plane crash. I'm Jared Hill with new video showing the moment a jet crashed and then flipped over near the border in Canada.
Wet weather stays with us across the Gulf Coast region for both south central and southeast with a warming trend staying with us. I'll have more on that. First to sunrise, 8:36 in Anchorage, 9:17 in Bethel. Your full forecast is next.
And we're back 15 minutes past the hour. Here's something fun for all you bird lovers. I think Aaron's in that category. The Audubon Society accepting admissions for its annual photography contest. You are looking at the picture that won from Alaska. This was back in 2019. Taken at the Sea Life Center in Seward by Sebastian Velasquez, who took home the prize for youth winner. That's the last time an Alaskan picture won a prize.
Oh, yeah, and that's kind of a tragedy as 502 different bird species have been documented in the state. Here you're seeing some of last year's winners that feature birds that can also be found here. So grab your cameras. You can win cash prizes up to $5,000, and you have until March 15th to submit your best bird imagery. So they might need to be from last year because birds aren't really back yet, I don't think.
Yeah, and don't forget to send all your photos to us, Alaska's news source. We would love to see them. Maybe you could even get a winning shot of the ever-elusive white raven, which I haven't really seen any photos of this year. Really haven't seen it out and about. Certainly has been a warm winter across South Central and a snowfall drought at that. We typically see roughly about 55-ish inches of snowfall through this time period, but we're only sitting at just over 30 inches. 11 degrees currently in Fairbanks, 17 in McGrath, 12 degrees in Bethel. We've got some snow that's continuing across western and southwest Alaska, some rain in areas of wintry mix, even seeing some reports of some freezing rain out towards St. Paul, and then we are expecting some rain to build back in across the panhandle through the rest of this week. But you can see overall, most of the moisture continuing to stream into the Gulf of Alaska. This is where we're going to continue to hold on to some daily rain from Prince William Sound out towards southern parts of the Kenai, and of course southeast will also tap into some of that heavier rainfall as well. Still seeing these weather alerts as you head across western Alaska from the Anoka Valleys, Nulato Hills out towards Norton Sound. This is where we're going to see some of that heaviest snowfall accumulation of about 3 to 6 inches. And then these winter weather advisories and the blizzard warning, we're only going to see about 1 to 2 inches. The bigger concern for extreme coastal regions will be those winds, which could gust anywhere from 40 to 60 miles per hour, leading to some lowering visibility and some blowing snow. Heading into the upper levels of the atmosphere, notice the persistent southerly flow we're seeing across a good portion of the state. Not only is this reinforcing the moisture that we're seeing building in across the Gulf Coast region, but it's also keeping us on the warm side. And the question through the rest of this week becomes, how much, if any, of that moisture is able to build in over the Chugach and Kenai Mountains. If we manage to see some of that moisture spreading inland, we'll see some light sprinkle opportunities. But for the most part, we're going to continue to hold on to some of that heavier rain for coastal regions. Higher elevations of the mountaintops will see some of that snow accumulation, but no snow expected at sea level outside of possibly near Thompson Pass, where we could see more in the way of a wintry mix. But you can see inland areas largely staying dry, but we could see some of that light moisture building in over the mountains as we welcome in the rest of this week. But you can see waves upon waves of rain will continue to stay with us through the Gulf of Alaska. Those temperatures today warming into the mid to upper 30s for South Central. We could even see some 40s across the region. We were talking about this yesterday, that there's a few days this week where parts of South Central inland areas could warm into the lower 40s. We've got 37 in Valdez, 43 in Cordova, 26 in Golcana. We could see some breezy winds, but overall expecting any locations that hold on to some winds to be less than 20 miles per hour. You can see into the valley making a run near 40 degrees today, 43 in Talkeetna, 36 in Palmer. Notice those overnight lows also staying well above average for this time of year. We're going to continue to see this stretch of warm weather staying with us through the weekend and into next week as well. Daily highs sitting right around the mid to upper 30s. Might as well just throw a 37 in there, seeing there's a 35, 36 all across the board. Overnight lows staying mid to upper 20s, so it's going to be a warm into February. Now, coming up later in the show, we've been talking about that snowfall drought. Since December 1st, Anchorage has only seen 4.3 inches of snowfall. I'll let you know where that ranks in terms of the lowest snowfall seasons when it comes to our winter here in South Central, as well as a look at some of that snow across the state. That coming up later in the show.
Wow, it's like a total opposite from last year, Aaron.
Completely.
Yeah. All right. Well, covering the interior, Fairbanks is receiving its first round of funding from an opioid lawsuit settlement. The borough awarded $25,000 grants to 3 organizations.
That includes the Interior AIDS Association, the Resource Center for Parents and Children, and the Boys and Girls Club. The funds will support efforts to combat opioid abuse through treatment, education, and prevention.
It's definitely helping fund our supplies, so we don't ever have to worry about running out of the supplies. We can expand the types of supplies we buy, like the wound care kits, hats and gloves, other things that people need on kind of like an ad hoc or seasonal basis. We don't have to scramble to put together the different types of kits or supplies that they need, depending on what's going on for them.
According to Brennan, Alaska had nearly 300 opioid-related deaths last year. That's an increase from 2023. Providence Hospital is selling some of its care facilities in Alaska.
The 3 are Extended Care, Transitional Care, and Horizon House, all being sold to the for-profit Ensign Group. Providence says the sale will help keep services running as many nursing homes nationwide struggle. Ensign says nearly all staff will be retained and programs will continue without downsizing. The sale is pending state approval and expected to close next month.
You've been listening to the Alaska's News Source podcast. Subscribe to have the latest episodes delivered to your library automatically.